Sorry I didn't get it done in a timely manner because of not having a chairperson. You forget what the order is sometimes. Today is the first session, like I said, and it's kind of an odd type of feeling. I pointed out this morning that there's a lot of times that things seem similar but are a little bit different, and I use the example of Ohayo gozaimasu and good morning. A lot of people use that as a translation, but it's not quite the same. You use it in similar situations, but when you think about it, Ohayo gozaimasu doesn't have any morning in it. Right? There's no morning in it. Basically what you're saying is, thank you for getting up so early and running around and taking care of all these things. And whereas good morning, you're wishing a person, that they have a good morning. And that always seemed a little presumptuous to me. What gives me the right to wish somebody and be able to give them a good morning? It's kind of odd. But the thing that I was trying to point out is things don't necessarily fit, even though they may be similar. And in the same way, these beginning of the year type situations are similar to every other, but it's a little bit different. And one of the things that we've been doing during the summer was the chanting of the Shoshinge in the new form that was arranged by the Honganji in Kyoto, Japan. So for the 750th memorial for Shinran Shonin that actually starts in 2011 and goes into 2012. But next year, San Jose and the Coast District has the honor of hosting, in February, has the honor of hosting the VCA National Council meeting and the Machuke, the kickoff kind of service for this 750th for the Buddhist Churches of America. So, not to be embarrassed, we wanted our people to be at least familiar with the chanting, so we've been practicing during the summer, and we will start up again after we get enough copies made for all the people attending the service. So you can look forward to that. But one of the things about Buddhism is that, a lot of times people say that enlightenment is being able to see what really is. And this may be true to a point, but I think it's actually closer or more a matter of being able to not ignore what we see or being able to see things sooner, right? One of the senior ministers pointed out, that Buddhism actually tells you the obvious. It's things that you know. It's everything that, it's almost everything we know, but for some reason we tend to ignore it. And that's why we call it ignorance, right? We call it ignorance. It's not that, we show you or teach you anything that's earth-shaking or earth-shattering or anything like that. It's something you know, but for some reason we have mental blocks or something that keep us from seeing things or keep us from acknowledging things. One example of this is when people of any age fight, when little kids are fighting or older people are having an argument. When you're part of that argument, deep down, you're partly wrong. Some of the blame is yours. You know that. But for some reason, you don't want to admit it. And then, it gets so bad that you start finding more and more fault with the other person. Right? You start pointing fingers and saying, well, not only did you do this, but 10 years ago you did this, and 30 years ago you did this, and you go back and bring out all these things that sort of kind of tie in, but not really, But you start finding more and more things to get mad about. And but if we're part of it, deep down, we really know that we have to accept some of the blame, right? We have to accept at least part of the blame. Not all cases. I'm never wrong. But in most cases, there's something that we, that we need to accept the blame. And sometimes it's even more than part of it. It's most of it, And we find it very hard to to be able to admit it, even to ourselves. And, that thing is there. We see it, we know it, but most of the time we refuse to admit it. Again, we ignore it. This is ignorance. Another example of this is when some older people seem so grateful for the little things that people may do for them, right? People don't have to do the things that they do for us. And we all see this, but most of the time, most of us choose to ignore it. We really don't think about it. We really don't express our appreciation. We just kind of accept it and take it for granted, right? The Japanese term arigato is often translated as thank you. And again, this is one of those same things as good morning and Ohio. It's thank you, but again, this is another one of those square pegs that are small enough to fit into a round hole. Yeah, it fits, but then there's a lot missing. There's a lot missing there. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. Arigato means that it's literally it means difficult or impossible to be, right? It's something that didn't have to happen. But all these different causes and conditions came together to make it happen. So we really are appreciative of all these things coming together in just the right way for it to happen. It's something that didn't have to happen. It's virtually impossible for it to happen, but it did, right? It did. And for this, we need to be grateful. When we really think about it, people in our lives do things for us, and they don't have to. They really don't have to. To be able to do simple things even requires so many things coming together in just the right way, and we really don't think about it. About the only time we start thinking about it is when we can't do our regular routine. If something happens that we can't do it, then we come to understand and feel grateful for it a little bit. I don't think I'm that different, but I usually don't get sick, but most males are really terrible patients. When we get sick, we're miserable. We're really terrible. And I don't think too much about being healthy most of the time, but when I'm sick in bed, my wife and daughter will attest to this. I'm usually very bad. I'm just sitting there, and I need attention all the time, right? I need attention all the time, and that attention is usually there, but I take it for granted, and then when I'm sick, the health that I have is more appreciated at that time than anything else. Sometimes either on the golf course or doing yard work, I sprain a wrist or turn an elbow a little bit strangely, and even opening a doorknob becomes hard, right? Even opening a doorknob becomes hard. It's something that we take for granted all the time, but when you really think about it, there's so many things that have to be just right to be able to do even the simple things in life. And we tend to ignore it, right? Most of the time we go through life ignoring it. We don't even think about it. But we all know that it's there. We all know that everything has to be just right. We all know this. But again, we ignore it, right? We ignore it. And this is why, especially our teaching, the teaching of Shinran Shonin, points to us and calls us, simple, ignorant beings. And most people don't like to be called simple and ignorant. You want to think of yourself as being special. Yeah, you're special because you're ignorant, right? I'm special because I'm even more ignorant. But then that gets into another thing too. The other side of this is that if you start saying, I'm more ignorant than you, and that means I understand the teaching more than you do, you're falling into a pitfall there, right? So you shouldn't be going around bragging about your ignorance. Number one, most people wouldn't understand it, and people in the temple would understand too well.